to go.
Good morning once again. In my first tutorial video, I discussed what accounting is. Accounting is the language of business. Why? Because through of the financial statements, it can communicate to various users such as the internal one and the external one. And I also discussed in brief why do you need to study accounting, because in your daily walks of life, it deals with accounting, whether you're paying your tuition fees, buying some loans, or buying some gadget, and etc. And also discuss in brief one of the basic financial statements, which is the statement of financial condition, or the so-called balance sheet, wherein that is a kind of financial statement that shows the financial condition of a certain business enterprise. It shows how much the assets, how much the liabilities, and how much the owner's equity, wherein I cite the example of putting up an internet cafe wherein you need a total capitalization of 100,000 and all you have in your hand is a 50,000 cash. So you resorted to borrowings of 50,000. So in short, your total assets is the 100,000 and your liability or your utang is 50,000. Therefore, your capital is 50,000. That is the very essential of the balance sheet. And as an introductory rather of the second basic financial statement is the statement of financial performance, or the statement of the comprehensive income. We call that income statement, which would be our topic today. The next financial reports or statements is the statement of comprehensive income, or the income statement, wherein it shows the financial performance of the enterprise for a given period of time. Please take note, for a given period of time. So it might be on a monthly basis, or every 3 months, or every 6 months, or every 12 months, for a given period of time, wherein it answers the following questions. Does the business make profit? So kumita ba ang isang negosyo? So kikita ang isang negosyo if your total income is greater than your total expenses for that given period of time. Does the business incur loss? So the business will surely incur loss if the revenue is smaller than or lesser than the total expenses for that given period. For example, if your revenues for a certain period is only 100 pesos and your total expenses is 110, therefore you have a lugi or loss of how much? 10 pesos. You're right. Now let's proceed to the next financial reports, which is the statement of changes in owner's equity. Changes, pagbabago, movement. Owner's equity, I discussed it in brief when I discuss about the balance sheet, wherein that is the net worth of a business owner, o yung puhunan niya talaga, yung nagbumula talaga sa kanyang bulsa. So that is the owner's equity. Wherein that kind of financial reports or statements summarize the changes of equity for a given period of time. Okay, balikan natin yung internet cafe natin. Magkano ngayong puhunan mo doon? Yung sariling puhunan mo talaga, 50,000 pesos, you're right. Okay? Say for example, after 6 months. So, naka-generate ka ng internet cafe fees of 100,000 pesos. And your total expenses for that 6 months is 80,000 pesos. So, definitely, kumita po tayo. Meron tayong profit or profit for the month, or tinatawag ng iba na net income. So, magkano yung net income natin? So, 100,000 revenues or fees minus expenses of 80,000, we get a net of 20,000 pesos. Therefore, yung puhunan mo, after 6 months, tutubo or mag-increase by how much? By profit of 20,000. So therefore, as of that period, your owner's equity or your capital or the net worth is 50,000 beginning capital balance plus your net income or profit for that 6 months na 20,000. So your total capital ending balance is how much? So 50,000 beginning plus the net income of 20,000 of changes on owner's equity, wherein later on, I will show you the type of financial reports or statements after I discuss this. After I discuss everything about the financial reports and the statements. Okay. Okay, so ayan, nababasa natin that the capital balance beginning will be increased if you will have the additional investment. So for example, after 6 months, alam mong, di ba kumita tayo ng 20,000, ako maganda pa lang ang negosyong ito. So I have to infuse another investment. Okay, so magpapasok ako ng karagdagang kapital. So, example, nagdagdag ka ng 10,000. Okay? So, yun. Mag-i-increase siya sa iyong net worth. So, it will increase your net worth. That additional investment of yours, of course, plus the profit. Okay? Kailan naman po yan mababawasan? Kailan po magdi-decrease yung owner's equity natin? Okay? The answer is just simple. In case you have some personal needs. Okay? So, you need to withdraw from your business. So, magdi-decrease po yung puhunan natin pag magkakaroon po tayo ng withdrawal for your personal use. Wherein later on, I will discuss to you when I discuss the accounting equation. Okay? Yan. Next, we will discuss the fourth one, the statement of cash flows. Cash flows. Flows, anong pagkakaintindi natin sa flows? The movement. So, ganito din makikita natin sa statement of cash flows. It deals about the flows, the in and the out of the cash. Okay? So, yan ang makikita natin sa statement of cash flows, wherein it shows the cash receipts and the disbursements. Okay? Cash receipts, tanggap. Inflow. Cash inflows and the disbursements, labas ng pera. So, the cash outflows. Wherein, that statement categorizes the following activities of our cash flows. The operating, the investing, and the financing. Operating, about sa daily operation of the business. For example, kumita ka, tumanggap ka ng fees from your internet cafe. So, operating po yun. Nagbayad ka ng sahod, operating po yun. Bumili ka ng mga inks, mga supplies, operating po yun. So, yun ang tipo ng activities na papasok sa operating natin. So, investing naman natin, from the root word invest, so makikita mo dyan pag ikaw ay bumibili ng equipments, so nag-i-invest ka. Okay? So, yan typical example. Or binenta mo yung equipments mo, and that is not part of the regular course of the business, yung pagbibinta mo ng equipment. So, investing po yun. Okay? So, let's discuss the next one, the financing. So, naalala niyo pa yung sinabi natin before na source of financing? Okay? So, yan po yun siya. Yung financial structure. Kung saan ba nanggaling yung ating buhunan. So, it might be, meron kang investment or ikaw ay nag-resort into borrowings. Okay, financing. Pag ikaw naman po ay nagbayad ng interest sa pinang-utang mo, okay, financing po yun. Provided that payment of interest is not part of the regular course of the business. So, papasok po siya sa financing natin. Well, in future discussion or in my future tutorial video, mas maiintindihan po natin yung sinasabi nating mga financial reports or the financial statements. So, ngayon, understanding lang kung ano ba yung makikita natin sa type of the financial reports that I am discussing with you. Okay? Of course, in the preparation of the financial statements, we are guided or governed by the so-called generally accepted accounting principles, or we call that GAAP. Okay? Ano yung nag-guide sa aming mga accountants or the bookkeepers in the preparation of financial statements, wherein that financial statements will serve as a tool for communication to various users. We call that the generally accepted accounting principles. That is the authoritative body of accountancy that formulates standard principles, assumptions, and procedures. So, yung nag-guide sa amin sa paggawa ng mga financial reports. Okay? Ang iti-take up lang natin ngayon in our tutorial video is the basic assumptions in accounting. Okay? First, we have the so-called economic entity or accounting entity assumption. Sinasabi dyan, the business is considered as entity that is separate and distinct. Take note, that is separate and distinct from the owner of the management. Sa isang simpleng salita, pag tayo ay nag-put up na internet cafe, nung pinakawalan mo na as investment yung 50,000 mo, hindi na po pera mo yon in the perspective ng accounting, in our point of view. Okay, that money belongs to your internet cafe. For example, the name of, example, ako yung mag-put up ng internet cafe at gusto kong pangalan ng internet cafe ko ay Vinesky Internet Cafe. So, yung 50,000 na in-infuse ko as capital in Vinesky Internet Cafe is not mine anymore. It became the asset of the Vinesky Internet Cafe. Yan na naman yung ibig niyang sabihin. So, ibig sabihin, if I have a personal transaction, for example, gusto kong mag-withdraw ng pera, so dapat matitreat siya as separate transaction. Dahil, hindi na yung transaction ni Divine, kundi transaction na yun ni Vinesky Internet Cafe. Okay? So, yun ang ibig sabihin. That the business has a legal entity or identity doon sa recording natin. Next, basic assumption is the so-called going concern assumption. Siyempre, pag magne-negosyo tayo, we're not thinking about to have the business for only one day, for only 2 days, or say, for example, 1 month. We are, that objective na tatagal po yung negosyo natin. So, that is the going concern assumption. Yan. Wherein the business is assumed to continue operating indefinitely for a period of time. At hindi lang pangsandalian lamang. Okay? That's why the transactions, okay, is recorded in the books of accounts. Remember the books of accounts? So, diniscuss po natin yung books of accounts in brief. We have the so-called books of original entry. Tinawag natin before na journal. Okay? And meron tayong second books of accounts. Tinawag nating ledger, the books of final entry, which is later, i-discuss natin in detail. Mga intro lang muna tayo ngayon. Okay. So, meron tayong source documents. Yan, makikita natin yung ating historical cost or the actual cost incurred. Say, for example, nung bumili tayo ng mga computers natin, kung pagkabili natin ng ating mga computers ay 30,000 per unit or sabihin natin per set, so that will be recorded in our books of accounts at 30,000 pesos. So, mayroong transaction doon. Balikan natin. Na-touch ko yung transaction. Again, ano yung transaction natin? Inuulit-ulit ko talaga kasi yun ang pagmumulan ng ating steps bago tayo makagawa ng mga financial reports. Ano yung transaction natin? Exchange of values wherein there must be the value received and the value parted with, which should be always equal in value. Okay. So that's it. Next of the basic assumptions in accounting, the so-called monetary unit assumption. Of course, in our recording in our books of accounts, kailangan meron siyang peso value. Okay? I mean monetary value. Since we are in the Philippines, so we have the Philippine peso, wherein this concept assumes that money is the common denominator in measuring economic activity. So, i-record natin na meron tayong common denominator. So, kung nasa US ka, syempre, we have the US dollar. Since we are in the Philippines, we have the Philippine peso. So, when we recorded in our books of accounts, when we bought that equipments, for example, 100,000, the previous example, that is 30,000, 1 unit computers or office equipment. So your value received is the computer or the office equipment, and the value parted with is the cash. Pinakawalan mo yung cash. So, equivalent of 30,000 pesos. So, that will be recorded in our books of accounts in Philippine peso. Okay? Next is the so-called periodicity or time period assumption na discussed ko a while ago. Example ng time period. Ito na naman yun. Ina-assume natin that the life of the business is divided into several periods. It might be just one, calendar period, fiscal period, interim period. Calendar period. So, the term itself, calendar. So, ano ba yung makikita natin sa kalendaryo natin? Nagsistart tayo ng anong buwan? January. Yes, you're right. So, nagsistart tayo ng January 1. At kailan tayo nag-e-end? December 31. So, yun po ang calendar period natin. 12 months which started from January 1 and nag-e-end po tayo ng December 31. Okay? So, that is the calendar period. What is the fiscal period then? Ito naman yung nag-start ng any months of the year except January 1. So, example, we can start it on February 1, kailan po tayo mag-i-end to complete the 12-month period? So, mag-i-end tayo ng January 31 of the next year. For example, February 1, 2020, so mag-i-end ang 12-month period natin ng January 31, February 28 rather, February 28, 2021. Okay. That is an example of fiscal period. Interim period. Ito yung sa gitna, hindi mo kailangan maubos ang 12 months. For example, gusto mo monthly. Gusto kong makita ang financial reports ng monthly. So, 1 month lang. That is interim period. Wherein yung magagawa natin financial statements during the interim period, we call that interim financial statements. So, gusto mo every 3 months. So, that is every quarter. Gusto mo every 6 months. Every semi-annual or buong taon, syempre, calendar period or annually. Okay. Next, basic assumptions in accounting, we call the accrual basis assumption. Ibig sabihin ng accrual, hindi lahat ng nire-record natin kailangan merong cash na involved talaga. So, it should not be cash basis. Anong ibig sabihin nun? Yan, nakikita po natin the accrued income. Ibig sabihin yan, yung income natin, even though that is not yet collected, nire-record din po natin sa libro natin. So, for example, example tayo, December 26, meron kang client, pumasok dun sa internet cafe mo, ay wala pa siyang pera. Wala siya pera, sabi niya, I owe you muna. So, yung income natin, i-record mo kahit na hindi pa nabayaran. Kasi talagang na-realize mo na during that time. Na-realize mo na. Kita mo na yon. Another example, meron kang boarding house. Okay? Sabihin natin na ang agreement ng bayaran nyo ng boarding house ay ang due for the month, babayaran mo 5 days after the end of the month. For example, September. So, kailan ka magbabayad ng rental fee? Kung ikaw yung nagbo-board, magbayad ka na October 5. So, in the point of view ng may-ari ng boarding house, for example, ako yung may-ari ng boarding house, ikaw yung nagbo-board sa akin, kailan ka magbabayad sa akin? October 5. Kailan ako makakatanggap? October 5 din. Pero kailangan kong gumawa ng financial reports ng September 30 rather. So, kailangan kong i-record ko ang income na yon for September kahit hindi ka pa nagbayad sa akin. Kaya yan ang tinatawag nating accrued income. Income already realized but not yet collected. So, na-realize na but not yet collected. In contrast, we have the accrued expenses. Kung ang accrued income is the income realized but not yet collected, ito namang accrued expenses, Expenses already incurred. Gasto na talaga. Expired na. Gamit na talaga. But not yet paid. So, balikan natin yung ating boarding house kanina. Sa point of view mo naman. Kanina, sa point of view ko, para pag-discuss natin ng accrued income. Ngayon, ang point of view naman ay sa'yo na nagbo-board. So, gusto mong gumawa ng report as of September 30. So, expired na ba yung paggamit mo ng boarding house noong September 30? The answer is yes. Nagbayad ka ba sa akin? The answer is no. Hindi ka nagbayad. Kasi our contract states that magbabayad ka every 5 months or every 5 days rather at the end of each month. For example, kanina, so magbayad ka pa ng October 5. So, yun ang accrued expenses mo. Expenses already incurred but not yet paid. So, yan yung accrual basis assumption natin. Okay, so I do hope na klaro sa atin ang ating mga basic assumptions, okay, in accounting. Next, we will discuss in brief the different type of business organizations. Ayan, nakikita po natin, meron po tayong 4. Okay, pasadahan natin. Sole or single proprietorship, partnership, corporation, cooperatives. Number 1, sole. What word sole? Meaning, one, single. Ibig sabihin, magtatayo ka ng negosyo, nag-iisa ka lang. So, ikaw lang isang may-ari. Ikaw lang yung business owner. Yung single proprietorship, which it has advantage also. Kasi pag single lang, walang problema. Kung yung gusto mo, yun na. So, madali ka makaka-put up ng business. Walang conflict, wala kang kailangang kausapin na ibang investor. Ikaw lang. Kung kikita ka ng malaki, iyo lang. Pero kung naglugi ka, yan yung disadvantage din. Ikaw lang yung mag-shoulder ng lugi. Okay. Partnership, number 2. Partner, do you have a partner? O, di ba pag nagtatanong ng ganun, naisip agad ng kabataan ngayon, meron ba akong jowa, meron ba akong boyfriend, meron ba akong labi-labi? So, partnership. So, it involves at least 2 person para makapagtayo ng negosyo. Sabi nga ng legal definition, partnership, wherein that is 2 or more persons daw nag-contribute ng money, property, or industry or skills to common fund para magbi-business sila and i-divide nila ang profits among themselves. Okay, given yan sa batas. Okay, hindi na natin masyadong elaborate kasi sa next course nyo pa yan pag-aaralan. Corporation, so napapanood natin sa palabas yan. Yung sinong nakaabot pa nung mula sa puso, yung nandun si Amor Powers, yung mga napapanood natin mga teleserye, corporation, naririnig yung mga board of directors. Isa itong malaking organization, isa itong malaking business enterprise. So, ang partnership ay nasa-start ng at least 2, nag-end ng or more persons. Itong corporation naman, magpuput up sila, tinatawag natin incorporators, yung mga original dyan. Okay? Kailangan at least 5 sila. Okay, at least 5 sila na magko-contribute or magpo-pull in ang kanilang mga resources, which is magiging subject nyo yan sa mga next accounting course ninyo. Okay, cooperatives, kamukha halos ng corporation, marami din yan sila dyan. Now, let's go to the nature of business. Ito yun, yung ano bang klase yung pinagmumula ng kita ng isang negosyo? Number 1, service concern. Service, serbisyo. Ano ba example ng serbisyo? Yan, makikita mo, vulcanizing shop. Yan, paano ba sila kumikita? Kailangan mag-vulcanize siya muna para siya ay babayaran ng vulcanizing fee. Sa beauty parlor, kailangan magkulot ka muna. Magputol ka muna ng hair bago ka kikita dun sa beauty shop. Okay, sa laundry shop, maglaba ka muna bago ka kikita. So, service concern. Yan yon. Yung mga accountants naman kaya, okay lang, magre-render kami ng mga audit services para magkakaroon kami ng audit fees. Yun ang maging source of revenue namin or income. Okay, yun ang service concern. Ibig sabihin, kumikita ka in exchange of rendering services. Okay. Yan yung service concern. Merchandising. From the root word merchandise. Paninda. Mga goods. Typical example. Sari store. Ayan. Marami tayong mga groceries dyan sa ating bayan ng Tupi. Okay? So, buy and sell. O kahit sa mga barangay natin, mayroong mga maliliit na mga sari-sari store. Yan yung merchandising. Ibig sabihin, sila ay nagbabuy and sell. So, bibili sila ng produkto without any alteration. Hindi nila babaguhin yon. Siguro ang babaguhin na nila yung pagre-repack. So, sabihin, bumili sila example na 1 kilong sugar, brown sugar. Gagawin nilang half kilo or 1/4 kilo. And ibibenta nila in the same form. So, wala silang babaguhin sa goods itself. Siyempre, para kikita sila, so kung ang kapital nila or punan sa sugar ay 10 pesos per kilo, ibebenta nila yun at markup. O sasabihin natin, bibenta nila at 12 pesos. So, meron silang gross profit doon sa produkto mismo na 2 pesos. Yun yung merchandising concern. So, engage in buy and sell. Agriculture. Alam natin, agriculture involves lupa. Ito naman yung klase ng business na nagtatanim ng palayan, halimbawa. O meron silang, mga maisan. So, that deals with agriculture. Okay, number 4, manufacturing. Yan yung mga factories natin. For example, yung gumagawa ng mga dilata, mga tuna flakes and oil, sardinas. Yan, gumagawa ng mga chips. Ibig sabihin, they need raw materials, for example, sa paggawa ng tuna flakes and oil. Ano mga raw materials nila? So, kailangan nila ng isda, of course. Ayan. Ano pa yung mga materials na kailangan nila para makaproduce sila ng tuna flakes and oil? Or banana chips. Ano ba yung raw materials nila? Kailangan nila saging, sugar, oil. Yun. Yun ang sa manufacturing concern natin. Okay? For the hybrid companies, nasa kanya na lahat. Meron siyang nag-render siya ng service, nagbabuy and sell din siya, meron siya agriculture. So, many components or many type of business na pinangkumbay niya, hybrid companies. Para naman siya mga group of companies. I would hope by this point of time, medyo may natutunan tayo sa nature business, sa type of the business organizations, and the different basic assumptions. Ayan. So, let's continue.